Hello there. I am Lucy Baldwin, and I am a psychedelic integration coach and a shadow integration coach. And I want to just give you a little bit of background about what that means and who I am and what I do. So, I came about this whole psychedelic integration thing through my own experience. I was essentially forced to um, so I had been doing a lot of psychedelics and doing a lot of ayahuasca and done quite a few retreats sort of right in a row where I was drinking a lot of medicine but not integrating my experiences. And I ended up having a very hard time physically and having to take a break, take kind of a long break. And what happened was I realized that during that whole time that I was drinking the medicine, I thought that I was integrating my experiences. I knew about this as a thing, but I didn't realize that I wasn't actually doing it at all. I was totally neglecting it, but I totally thought that I was doing it. And I also had a sort of misguided belief that the medicine was able to give me and teach me everything that I needed to know. And I had a sort of very ungrounded perspective on that. So, after going through my own journey and my own experience of having to figure out how to integrate, I started working with other people and ultimately became an integration coach. And now I've moved into a more general practice of shadow integration coaching because I think the two things are very similar and they're interrelated and interwoven, at least in the way that I do them. And I think that for people who haven't done psychedelics, there's a ton available through just like doing the shadow integration coaching. And for people who have, I think that bringing that component in to the integration process is one of the most powerful ways to really get the most out of your psychedelic experiences and just life generally. So, psychedelic integration coaching, I break it down into two sort of discrete components. The initial part is what I call reintegration, and that is where you're simply coming back into your life after having had a psychedelic experience. And on some level, this happens naturally because we come off of the psychedelics, we come down and we start, eating, and we go home. If we're elsewhere, we go back to work, whatever it is that we do regularly, there's a shift that happens from when you're in the psychedelic experience to when you're back in everyday life. And that's the reintegration process. And that can look a lot of ways. And most, if left alone, it will happen automatically. But sometimes, if not done consciously, that is where a lot of trouble can happen for people. That's where a lot of people can get stuck because they might not fully make that transition, or they might not give themselves enough rest, or we have a tendency sometimes to make these things a lot harder than they need to be. So that's one type of integration. And the other type of integration is what I call continuing integration, or often I just refer to it as integration. And this is more about the long-term practice of bringing in the insights that you receive from that experience to your everyday life. So, if you're breaking it down, it's that you have the psychedelic experience and you have to get from the experience back into your life. And so you want to make that transition as smoothly as possible. And then from there, once you're back in your life, you want to bring those experiences with you and have them inform your life in a meaningful way. Especially if, like me, you're using psychedelics to try to improve your life and for, spirituality or self-growth or anything like that. So the there are a few things that can be done to make the reintegration process a lot easier. And just a couple really quick and very basic tips for that is being really conscious of how much you're sleeping, what you're eating, and if you're on any special diet, it's really important, for the medicine that you drank. For example, if you drink ayahuasca, there's a safety diet, and it's really important to continue that diet after you drink the medicine for as long as possible, because the medicine stays in your system. So all of those contraindications continue to apply after you take the medicine, and especially if you're taking any pharmaceutical medicines or SSRIs or things like that, MAOI inhibitors. Um, I guess the I means inhibitor in there. I'm not actually. Anyway, that's off. Sorry. I'm just saying if you're taking any medicines that are contraindicated with the psychedelic that you've taken, it's extra important that you stay off of those after you take the psychedelic, because the medicine stays in your system. So that's just a quick safety warning. But generally, if you're on a special diet, continuing that diet can be really helpful. And along with that, a big part of the safety diet, or the diet that people do for ayahuasca, but I think can also be really helpful with other psychedelics. We talk a lot about set and setting when it comes to when you're actually ingesting the medicine, but this is still really important afterwards. So for example, I don't recommend coming off of a really intense trip with any psychedelic and then sitting in front of the TV and watching the news, for example. Like that's a time when you're extremely vulnerable. You're very open. Your mind is open. You are open. You're open to, your brain has just, on a physical and chemical level, your brain is in a process of like rewiring, and that is not a great time to be ingesting news and mass media, or really any media, if possible. So those are some really basic things that can really help with the reintegration process. The longer term integration, the continuing integration process, I mean, there's so much to be said about that. And I think that at the core of what I would want to offer as a tip, just like right here, right now, about that, is something along the lines of what I called continued intentionality. And so what it is essentially any practice that you want to do, or anything. It could be something that you're already doing, but finding a way to bring the intention that you brought into the medicine into your regular life, as regular as possible. So if you have something, it could be like, okay, from now on, when I brush my teeth, I'm going to do it. I mean, that sounds silly, but it's something that we all do, hopefully most days. um, so I guess what I'm saying is we're anchoring. This is like an anchor. So if you're brushing your teeth every day and you can tie that kind of intentionality into brushing your teeth, then every day you're going to remember whatever it is that you're trying to remember. So I guess taking a step back, establishing what that intentionality is going to be. It might be whatever intention you brought into the psychedelic experience, or it might be that during the psychedelic experience you had an awareness about something that you feel like if you could have that awareness more in your everyday life, it would really improve your life. So maybe it's something that the psychedelics showed you about yourself, or the way that you're not serving yourself, or certain patterns that you want to shift. You can bring that intentionality, you can bring that idea, that concept, you tie it to something that you're already doing. So when I brush my teeth, I'm going to remember this experience I had of being one with everybody and trying to hold more compassion, or whatever it is. And so then every morning when you brush your teeth, you're reforming that connection. You're carrying that intentionality forward into your life every single day. So this is a really helpful tip for a lot of people. And this is particularly for people who've had a sort of a smooth reintegration, and you've had an okay time with yourself processing your experiences. If you are struggling, I guess, to process your experience, or you're not really sure how to glean the right meaning out of it, or you're feeling paranoid or worried or just uncertain. I've seen, a lot of upheaval happen with people. Just, a spiritual awakening can be an extremely jarring experience, and there's no shame in that. And, whatever it is that's coming up for you, if you're really struggling after a psychedelic experience, I definitely recommend seeking support, whether that be from somebody you love, somebody in your community. A lot of people who come to me just don't feel like they have somebody to talk to. So maybe if you can reach out to whoever facilitated your work, or something like that. Or, of course, I'm available. That's what I do. I do psychedelic integration coaching, and so I am a resource for you. And you can certainly reach out to me, and that's what I do. So, yeah, that's just a little bit of background about what the psychedelic integration looks like. And I guess I will just share really quickly that about the shadow integration piece. I think the two are really married together in a large way, because a lot of what's happening, my understanding of taking psychedelics, a lot of what's happening is that we are opening up our mind to everything else that's available outside of what we normally perceive. And shadow work is all about aligning ourselves better with our unconscious mind. And so a lot of the conversations or experiences that we're having with psychedelics are with our unconscious selves. And, it really depends on what your what your philosophical beliefs are, whether you believe that, all of the things that you're experiencing during psychedelics are some piece of yourself, or something um, that you're tied to in reality. Um, but even still, these experiences can really inform some really deep things about ourselves that are within our psyche that we're unaware of. And the way that I kind of explain it is that um, and I think that psychedelics show us that we are so much vaster and so much greater than what we believe ourselves to be in our conscious waking moments. And so the shadow is a fancy word for the unconscious. And so psychedelics give us a view into our own unconscious. They also do more than that. But when they're doing more than that, it is also informing us something about our unconscious, because we're having the experiences that we're having for some reason. Even if we're calling in an entity, from some kind of alien, or whatever you think, whatever it is that you're calling in, there's a reason why you're calling that in, and it might not be a conscious reason. It's probably unconscious. And as each of us goes about our day, in our daily lives, we spend most of our time preoccupied. We are not thinking about what we're doing. We're thinking about this conversation we had, or what we want to have for dinner, or we're scrolling our news feed, or we're just like, most of us are not actually super present. And our subconscious is what is driving our life. It's what is actually living out our lives. We're experiencing it, but we're not necessarily consciously creating what's happening. And so shadow work is all about discovering what our unconscious beliefs, desires, what's actually going on in there, what's going on inside of our own mind and psyche that we're totally unaware of. Maybe it's that we're calling in unhealthy relationships. Maybe it's that we're sabotaging ourselves and we don't even realize it. And where does this come from? That's a whole conversation that I'm happy to have with you. But it's really about figuring out what's going on in there, and then sort of integrating your unconscious with your conscious mind. So using these tricks and tools essentially to get your subconscious mind on board with what you actually want, what your conscious mind, the you that is you, that you know is you, actually wants. And so that's what the shadow integration piece is all about. And I love the marriage of these two things, of psychedelics and shadow integration. And I think it's what makes it's just what I'm passionate about, as well as doing these one-on-one conversations with people where we really dig into these experiences and we use those to inform and understand some of the things that we can undig, that are buried, that we can that we can dig out and shift and make major changes in our lives. So that's just a little bit of an introduction into me and what I do and what I'm passionate about and how I got here. And yeah, I've been learning about this and working with it for years, and I feel like just working with the unconscious generally is the most powerful way that we can shift our lives and shift our experiences. And and psychedelics are they're a way to do that. And so I'm so excited to be offering this. And if you're interested, check out my booking page. You can you could do a free consultation call with me where we can just talk for 15 minutes and feel each other out. And then if you're interested in diving in with an introductory session, that's also available. And I also have some group calls available on my booking page. So definitely check that out. And if you're interested to, hear more and maybe stay connected, but you're not ready to actually hop on any kind of call with me, then join my mailing list and check out my podcast, which is called Psychedelic. And there's a podcast link somewhere up there, and not link, page where you can see all my episodes and my blog posts. So I hope that you will connect with me in some way. And I thank you for watching my video. Have a great day.